My name is Shannon Beecham. I am a student at Kepler this year, and I am taking the Romans class in Roman in Western culture. I am reading from the Richmond Lattimore translation. Book 18. And now there arrived a public beggar. He used to go begging through the town of Ithaca, known to fame for his ravenous belly and appetite for eating and drinking. There was no real strength in him, nor any force, but his build was big to look at. He had the name Arneos, for thus the lady his mother called him from birth. But all the young men used to call him Eros, because he would run and give messages when anyone told him. This man had come to chase Odysseus out of his house, and now he spoke insulting him, and addressed him in winged words. Give way, old sir, from the forecourt, before you are taken and dragged out by the foot. Do you see how all of them are giving the signal and telling me to drag you? Still I am ashamed to do it. So up before it comes to a battle of hands between us. Then looking darkly, resourceful Odysseus answered, Strange man, I am doing you no harm, nor speaking any, nor am I jealous if someone takes plenty and gives it to you. This door-sill is big enough for the both of us, nor have you any need to be jealous of others. I think you are a vagabond as I am too. Prosperity is in the gods' giving. Leave blows alone, do not press me too hard, or you may make me angry so that, old as I am, I may give you a bloody chest and mouth. Then I could have peace and still more of it tomorrow, for I do not think you will make your way back here a second time to the house of Odysseus, son of Laertes. Then in anger Eros the vagabond said to him, Shame on how the old hulk rolls along in his speech like an old woman at the oven. I have some bad plans for him. Hit him with both hands and spatter all the teeth out from his mouth, from his jaws on the ground, as if he were a wild pig rooting the crops. Come, tuck up, so all these people can see us do battle. But how can you fight against a man who is younger? So in front of the towering doors upon the threshold polished smooth, these two hurled jagged words at each other, and Antinous, the sacred prince, stirred them on to battle. And laughing sweetly, he spoke aloud to the rest of the suitors. Friends, in the past nothing has ever happened to match this entertainment that the god has now brought to the palace. For the stranger and Iros are making ready for battle with their fists. Come, let the rest of us speed the encounter. So he spoke, and the rest of them all sprang up, laughing, and gathered all in a group around the two ragged beggars. It was Antinous, the son of Eupeithes, who spoke to them. Listen to me, you haughty suitors, while I say something. Here are some goat paunches set on the fire. We filled them with fat and blood, and set them there to eat after supper. Whichever of these men wins the contest and is proved better, let him come up and help himself to whichever he likes best, and he shall always have dinner with us, nor shall we ever admit any other beggar to join us inside and beg from us. So Antinous spoke, and what he said was pleasing. But now resourceful Odysseus with crafty thoughts said to him, Friends, it is not possible for a man who is older and worn with sorrow to fight a younger man, but my villainous belly drives me to do it, and fall to his fists. Therefore, come, swear me a strong oath, all of you, that no one will take the side of Eros and light-heartedly strike me down with a heavy hand and make me fall to his onset. So he spoke, and they all swore him the oath as he asked it. But when all had sworn the oath and made an end of their swearing, the hallowed Prince Telemachus now spoke out among them. Stranger, if your heart and spirit are urgent with you to defend yourself against this man, then fear no other can. The man who strikes you shall have to fight against numbers. I myself am your host, with the assent of the two kings, Antinous and Eurymachus, both men of prudence. So he spoke, and they all applauded him. But Odysseus girded up his rags about his body, displaying his thighs, splendid and large, and one could see the wide shoulders. His chest showed in his ponderous arms, and also Athene, standing close behind the shepherd of the people, magnified his limbs, and the suitors all in their insolence were astonished, and thus would one of them speak, looking over at his next neighbor. Eros will soon be Eros no more, with himself to thank for the evil. See what limbs the old man's rags have uncovered. So he spoke, and the heart in Eros was stirred with trouble, but even so the thralls girt him up forcibly, and dragged him there. He was frightened, and the flesh shook all over his body. Antinous scolded him with a word, and spoke out and named him. I do not care if you live or die, you great ox, nor what happens to you, when you are afraid of this man and tremble before him, an old man, and worn with the sorrows that have come upon him. But I tell you this straight out, and it will be a thing accomplished. If this man wins the fight with you and is proof better, I will throw you into a black ship and send you across to the mainland to Eketos, who preys on all men, and who is king there, and he will with the pitiless bronze cut off your nose and ears, and tear off your privates, and give them raw for the dogs to feed on. So he spoke, and the trembling even more took hold of his limbs, but they pulled him on, and both men put their hands up. At that time, much enduring, great Odysseus pondered whether to hit him so that the life would go out of him as he went down, or only to stretch out by hitting him lightly. And in the division of his heart this seemed the best to him, to hit him lightly, so the Achaeans would not be suspicious. They put up their hands, and Eros hit him on the right shoulder. But Odysseus struck the neck underneath the ear, and shattered the bones within, and the red blood came in his mouth, filling it. He dropped, bleeding in the dust, with teeth set in a grimace, and kicking at the ground with his feet, and the haughty suitors held up their hands and died with laughing. Meanwhile Odysseus dragged him by the foot through the porch, till he came to the courtyard and the portico doors, and propped him against the courtyard wall, sitting up, and stuck the staff in his hand to hold it. Then he spoke to him aloud and addressed him in winged words. Sit there now and scare away the dogs and the stray pigs, but you must no longer try to be king of the strangers and beggars, being such a wretch, or you may win yourself still more evil. He spoke, and threw across his shoulder his ugly wallet that was full of holes, with a twist of rope attached to dangle it. He went back to the sill again and sat down, but the others went inside, laughing sweetly, and drank to him, saying, May Zeus, stranger, and all the other immortals give you what you most want of all, and what is dear to your spirit, for having stopped the wandering of this greedy creature in our neighborhood. Soon we will take him across to the mainland, to Eketos, who preys on all men, who is king there. So they spoke, and great Odysseus was pleased with the omen. Now Antinous set before him the great paunch pudding that was filled with fat and blood. Amphinomos, taking 2 loaves of bread out of the basket, set them before him, and drank his health in a golden cup, and spoke to him, saying, Your health, father and stranger, may prosperous days befall you hereafter. But now you are held in the grip of many misfortunes. Then resourceful Odysseus spoke in turn and answered him. Amphinomos, you seem to me a very prudent being, the son of such a father, whose excellent fame I have heard of. Nisos, that is, of Dulichian, both strong and prosperous. They say you are a son, and you seem like a man well spoken, so I will tell you, and in you in turn understand and listen. Of all creatures that breathe and walk on the earth, there is nothing more helpless than a man is, of all that the earth fosters. For he thinks that he will never suffer misfortune in future days, while the gods grant him courage, and his knees have spring in them. But when the blessed gods bring sad days upon him, against his will he must suffer it with enduring spirit. For the mind in men upon earth goes according to the fortunes the Father of gods and men, day by day bestows upon them. For I myself was promised to be a man of prosperity, but giving way to force and violence did many reckless things, because I relied on my father and brothers. Therefore, let no man be altogether without the sense of righteousness, but take in silence the gifts of the gods, whatever they may give him. Even so now I see the suitors, their reckless devisings, how they show no respect to the wife, and despoil the possessions of a man who, I think, will not for long be far from his country and friends. He is very close by, but I hope your destiny takes you home out of his way. I hope you will never face him at the time he comes back to the beloved land of his fathers, for I believe that once he enters his halls, there will be a reckoning not without blood between that man and the suitors. So he spoke and poured and drank the honey-sweet wine, then put the cup back into the hands of the lord of the people. But the other went back across the room, heart saddened within him, shaking his head, for in his spirit he saw the evil, but still could not escape his doom, for Athene had bound him fast to be strongly killed by the hands and spear of Telemachus. He went back and sat down on the chair from which he had risen, but now the goddess, grey-eyed Athene, put in the mind of the daughter of Icarius, circumspect Penelope, to show herself to the suitors, so that she might all the more open their hearts, and so that she might seem all the more precious in the eyes of her husband and son, even than she had been before this. She laughed in an idle way, and spoke to her nurse and named her Eurynome. My heart desires, though it before did not, to show myself to the suitors, although I still hate them. Also, I would speak a word to my son, and that would be for the better, that he should not always go on among the insolent suitors, who speak him well, but are plotting evil things for the future. Eurynome the housekeeper said to her in an answer, Now all this you have said, my child, was fair and orderly. Go then, and speak a word to your son. Hide nothing, only first you should wash your body and anoint your face. Do not go down with a face so ravaged all over by tears as it is now, since nothing is gained by indiscriminate sorrowing always. For now your son is come of age, and you know you always prayed the immortals, beyond all else, to see him bearded. Circumspect Penelope said to her in answer, Eurynome, though you care for me, do not speak of such matters as washing my body and anointing myself with unguents, seeing that the gods, they who possess Olympus, ruin my glory, from that the time when he went away in the hollow ships. But tell Autono and Hippodamia to come, so that they can stand at my side in the great hall. I will not go alone among men. I think that immodest. So she spoke, and the old woman went away from the palace, and brought the word to the woman, and urged them to go to their mistress. Then the goddess grey-eyed Athene thought what to do next. She drifted a sweet sleep over Achereus' daughter, and all her joints relaxed so that she slumbered, reclining there on the couch. Meanwhile she, shining among goddesses, endowed her with gifts immortal, to make the Achaeans admire her. First, for her beauty's sake, she freshened all her fine features with ambrosia, such as fair Garland and Cytherea uses for salve, whenever she joins the lovely dance of the Graces. She made her taller for the eye to behold, and thicker, and she made her whiter than sawn ivory. After doing so, she, Athene, shining among goddesses, departed, and the white-armed handmaidens came running in from the great hall, with clamor about Penelope, and the sweet sleep released her. She rubbed her cheeks with both her hands, and spoke aloud, saying, That was a strange thing, that soft sleep that shrouded me. How I wish chaste Artemis would give me a death so soft and now, so I would not go on in my heart grieving all my life, and longing for love of a husband excellent in every virtue, since he stood out among the Achaeans. So she spoke, and made her descend from her shining chamber, not all alone, since 2 handmaidens went to attend her. When she, shining among women, came near the suitors, she stood by the pillar that supported the roof with its joinery, holding her shining veil in front of her face to shield it, and a devoted servant was stationed on either side of her. Their knees gave way, and the hearts in them were bemused with passion, and each one prayed for the privilege lying beside her. But she spoke rather to her beloved son, Telemachus. Telemachus, your mind and thoughts are no longer steadfast. When you were a child still, you had better thoughts in mind. Now, when you are big, and come to the measure of maturity, and one who saw you some outsider, viewing your size and beauty, would say you were the son born of a prosperous man. Your thoughts are no longer righteous, nor your perceptions. Such a thing has been done now, here in our palace, and you permitted our stranger guests to be so outrageously handled. How must it be now, if the stranger who sits in our household is to be made to suffer so from bitter brutality? That must be outrage and shame as people see it. Then the thoughtful Telemachus said to her in answer, My mother, I cannot complain of your anger. I myself notice all these things in my heart, and know of them, better and worse alike. But before now I was only an infant. But still I cannot see my way to the wise course always. For these men come from one place or another, and sit beside me with their evil thoughts, and distract me, and there are none to help me. Yet it was not by the will of the suitors that this struggle took place between Eros and the stranger. And he was stronger than Eros in battle, O Father Zeus and Athene and Apollo. If only in our house in such a manner the suitors could be defeated and bow their heads, some in the courtyard and some inside of the house, and the limbs be unstrung in each of them, as now for Eros as he sits there by the courtyard gates, lolling his head like a drunken man, and unable to stand upright on his feet again and make his way homeward, to wherever he makes his home, since there is no strength in his body. So these two were conversing in this way with each other, but Eurymachus now spoke out and addressed Penelope. Daughter of Icarius, circumspect Penelope, if only all the Achaeans in Iod Argos could see you at dawn of day tomorrow, there would be even more suitors come to feast in your house, since you surpass all women for beauty and stature, and for the mind well balanced within you. Circumspect Penelope said to him in answer, Eurymachus, all my excellence, my beauty and figure were ruined by the immortals at that time when the Argives took ship for Ilion, and with them went my husband Odysseus. If he were here to come back to me and take care of my life, then my reputation would be more great and splendid. As it is now, I grieve. Such evils the god has let loose upon me, when he went and left me behind in the land of his fathers. He took me by the right hand at the wrist, and then said to me, Dear wife, since I do not think the strong-grieved Achaeans will all come safely home from Troy without hurt, seeing that people say the Trojans are men who can fight in battle, that they are throwers of the spear and shooters of arrows, and riders with fast-footed horsers, who with greatest speed settled the great and hateful issue of the common battle. I do not know if the god will spare me, or if I must be lost there in Troy. Here let everything be in your charge. You must take thought for my father and mother here in our palace, as you do now, or even more, since I shall be absent. But when you see our son, grown up and bearded, then you may marry whatever man you please, forsaking your household. So he spoke then, and now all this being accomplished, and there will come that night when a hateful marriage is given to me, wretched me, for Zeus has taken my happiness from me. But this thing comes as a bitter distress to my heart and spirit. The behavior of these suitors is not as it is in time past, when suitors desired to pay their court to a noble woman and daughter of a rich man, and rival each other. Such men themselves bring in their own cattle and fat sheep to feast the family of the bride, and offer glorious presents. They do not eat up another's livelihood without payment. She spoke, and much enduring great Odysseus was happy because she beguiled gifts out of them and enchanted their spirits with blandishing words, while her own mind had other intentions. Then Antinous, son of Eupeithes, answered, Daughter of Icarius, circumspect Penelope, whatever gift any Achaean wishes to bring here, take it. It is not honorable to refuse the giving. We will not go back to our own states, nor will we go elsewhere, until you marry whichever Achaean you fancy. So spoke Antinous, and his word pleased the rest of them. Each man sent his herald off to bring back the presents. Antinous' herald brought in a great robe, beautiful and elaborate, and in it were 12 double pins, golden all through, and fitted with bars that opened and closed easily. Eurymachus' men came back with an elaborate necklace of gold strung with bits of amber, and as bright as sunshine. Eurydamas' servant came back bringing a pair of earrings with triple drops and mulberry clusters, and there was a radiant charm in them. From the house of the lord Pysandrus, Polycator's son, his servant brought a necklace, a wonderful offering. Each of the Achaeans brought a different beautiful present, and she, shining among women, went back to her upper room, and her maidservants carried the beautiful presents for her. But now the suitors, turning to the dance and delightful song, took their pleasure and awaited the coming of the evening. And the black night came on as they were taking their pleasure. Accordingly they set up 3 cressets about the palace, to give them light, and about them they laid piles of firewood, pieces long and dried and seasoned, but lately split with the brazen axe, and put kindling in it. And the maids of enduring Odysseus were ready to take turns keeping them burning, when illustrious, resourceful Odysseus himself spoke to them. You maids of Odysseus, whose master has been long absent, go back into the house where the respected queen is, and in her presence turn your distaffs and sit beside her in the halls and comfort her, or comb your wool in your hands there. But I myself will provide light for all of these people, and even if they wish to keep at it until the high-throned dawn, they will not wear me out. I am very enduring. So he spoke, and they burst out laughing and looked at each other. But Melantho, of the lovely face, shamefully scolded him. Dolios was her father, but Penelope had taken her in, and cared for her like a daughter, and cheered her with presents. But even so, her heart had no sorrow for Penelope. But she used to sleep with Eurymachus, for she was his sweetheart. Now she spoke to Odysseus and gave him scolding. Wretched stranger, you must be one with wits who are distracted, when you will not go where the smith is at work, and sleep there, or go to some public gathering place, but staying here, speak out boldly and at length among many men, and your spirit knows no fear. The wine must have your brains, or else always you are such a man in your mind, and babbler of nonsense. Are you so brave because you beat the vagabond Eros? Take care lest a better man than Eros stand up against you, one who can pummel you about the head with his heavy hands, beat you, draw blood, and chase you out of this place. Then, looking at her darkly, resourceful Odysseus answered, I think I will go to Telemachus, you bitch, and tell him how you are talking, so that he will cut you to pieces. Speaking in words like this, he fluttered the woman. They went on their way back into the house, and the knees of each one went loose with fear. They thought he was speaking the truth. He then took his place by the burning cressets and kept them lighted, looking after them all himself, but the heart within him was pondering other thoughts, which were not to go unaccomplished. But Athene did not altogether permit the haughty suitors to forego their hard insolence, so that still more grief would invade the heart of Odysseus, son of Laertes. Eurymachus, son of Polybos, began speaking among them, taunting Odysseus, and stirred up laughter among his companions. Hear me, all you suitors of the glorious queen. Hear me while I speak out what the heart within my breast urges. This man comes as a gift of the gods to the house of Odysseus. It is my thought that he can give us illumination from his bald head which has no hair, not even a little. So he spoke and addressed Odysseus, sacker of cities. Stranger, if I were to take you up, would you be willing to work for me on my outer estate? I would give you adequate pay, assembling stones for fences and growing the tall trees. There I would provide you with an allowance of victuals, and give you shoes to wear on your feet and clothing to put on. But since all the work you have learned is bad, you will not be willing to go off and work hard. No, you would rather beg where the people are, and so be able to feed your ravenous belly. Then resourceful Odysseus spoke in turn and answered him, Eurymachus, I wish there could be a working contest between us, in the spring season when the days are lengthening, out in the meadow with myself, holding a well-curved sickle, and you, one like it, so to test our endurance for labor, without food, from dawn till dark, with plenty of grass for our mowing. Or if it were oxen to be driven, those of the best sort, large ones and ruddy, both well fed with grass, of an equal age and carrying power, and their strength is not contemptible. And there were 4 acres to plow, with the glebe giving to the plowshare. There you would see if I carve a continuous furrow. Or again, if this day the son of Cronos should bring on a battle, and fire given a great shield and 2 spears, and a helmet all of bronze well fitted over my temples, so you would see me taking my place as one of the foremost fighters, and you could not speak so in scorn of my belly. But now you are very insulting, and think to be short with me. Also, as I suppose you think you are a tall man and powerful, because you have dealings with few men and no brave ones. Surely if Odysseus were to come back to the land of his fathers, the gates of the house, although they are very wide, would suddenly be too narrow as you took flight to escape from the forecourt. He spoke, and the anger mounted in the heart of Eurymachus. And looking darkly at him, he addressed him in winged words. Wretch, I will do you an injury for the way you are talking, boldly and at length among many men, and your spirit knows no fear. The wine must have your brains, or else always you are such a man in your mind, a babbler of nonsense. Are you so brave because you defeated the vagabond Eros? So he spoke, and caught up a forestool, but Odysseus crouched against the knees of Dulichian Amphinomos, in fear of Eurymachus, who threw and hit the cupbearer in the right hand. The pitcher fell to the ground, clashing, but the cupbearer fell on his back in the dust, groaning. But the suitors all through the shadowy halls were raising a tumult, and thus they would speak, each man looking at the man next to him. How I wish this stranger could have gone to perdition somewhere else before he came here. He has raised such a tumult, and now we are fighting over beggars. There will be no pleasure in the stately feast at all, since vile things will be uppermost. 'Tis well, said Odysseus, that I should not have been Now the hallowed prince Telemachus spoke a word to them. Fools, you are out of your minds and no longer conceal inside you what you have eaten and drunk. It must be some god who troubles you. You have feasted well. Go to your homes and sleep, whenever that is anyone desires to go home. I drive away no man. So he spoke, and all of them bit their lips in amazement at Telemachus and the daring way he had spoken to them. Now they are addressed and spoken to by Amphinomos, the glorious son of Nisos, son of the Lord Aretios. Dear friends, no man must be angry, nor yet with violent answers attack what has been spoken in justice, and do not strike the stranger as you have done, nor yet any other serving man who is in the house of godlike Odysseus. Come now, let the cupbearer pour wine in our goblets, so we can pour a libation and then retire to our houses. And in the halls of Odysseus we shall let Telemachus look after the stranger, since it is his house that he came to. So he spoke, and the word he spoke was pleasing to all of them. The hero Mulios, the Dulichian herald, mixed them wine in the bowl. He was the henchman of Amphinomos. He passed it around to all in order, and they, pouring a libation to the blessed gods, drank the honey-sweet wine. But when they made a libation and drunk as much as they wanted, then they went home to go to bed, each man to his own house.